Hello and a warm welcome to our interview with Ken Pimentel from Epic Games. We're very excited to have Ken with us today in discussion about his work with Twinmotion and Unreal Engine at Epic Games. We're privileged to have Ken with us today to explore how the adoption of 3D CAD modeling, digital twins and BIM is being taken to the next level for the AEC. Ken is a veteran of our CAD world, including as Director of Industry Strategy and Marketing with focus on visualization, and he is a co-author of the book Virtual Reality Through the New Looking Glass. Ken, welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed being here and having a conversation with you, Melissa, today. I think it's exciting to share with your audience maybe some of the things that we're doing and you're doing together.
Great, I'm also looking forward. So Ken, today we would like to talk about three major challenges that we have in the CAD and BIM sector. This being the slow technology adoption in the AEC sector, and therefore the type of simple, intuitive tools that we need to deliver for this to happen. And thirdly, how can we harness these tools to deliver better, richer collaboration across the workflows for our multiple stakeholders' needs. But before we start, let's take a quick look at how the AEC sector are already using Twinmotion and Unreal Engine. Epic Games has done some great things that were for many unthinkable about 5 years ago. I remember once reading this post that say, no baking, no need to create LEDs, not rendering in a 3D real time. That blew my mind at the time, of course. Another simple example is no more waiting for rendering with Twinmotion. No need to do any UV mapping, no need to browse for hours on the right assets, especially vegetation. I know this is a struggle. And this is a real leap in capabilities. Can you tell me a little bit more about this one?
Yes, I mean, some of your audience may think we just started speaking a whole different language.
That's very true.
Which is something I'm very mindful of. And I think what we're trying to do with Twinmotion is break down that barrier where we remove some of the techno lingo from the process, and people just get the visuals that they need to get and move on. Unreal Engine, you better know that lingo because you're going to be hard pressed to, you'll be struggling otherwise. So I think that real-time, the fundamental value it's bringing is this idea that I can do more what-ifs per hour than I could before. So in previous times, when I was waiting for the visual outcome of changing the color of something or moving something, I would go, well, come back in 15 minutes or come back in an hour and I'll show you the result. Well, what if now I can do that in real time with my stakeholder? And he says, well, I think it'd look better with mauve. And you throw it on there and he goes, yeah, that's not a great look. Well, I think that's the promise, this get into an interactive, real-time decision-making process with your stakeholder. And we see firms doing that, where they set up a Zoom call, they have Twinmotion up, and they're just changing things in real time, showing the customer how it looks, empowering the customer. And I think this is really fundamentally what we're all trying to do, is empower the customer in the process and let them take more control over the design and influence it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree better than that. I also had interview one of our users. He's an engineer, and exactly that is what he said. I'm going more and more in 3D because this gives me the opportunity to have them see what's going to look like, and only then they really understand the design. Before, it was sort of a misunderstanding, having to go back and do all these changes, and they're actually working a lot better in this 3D world.
I think you bring up a really good point. I mean, we have to move beyond blueprints. The idea that you can use blueprints as a visual communication medium to explain something to people that aren't trained to read blueprints, we know that's just not going to work. And I think they've known it for decades that is a limited form of communication. So bringing it into 3D gives you the ability to present it in a way that the customer already understands without advanced learning degrees in architecture. So I think it's really important we meet customers where they're at, and I think 3D can drive the experiences that people can relate to.
Yep.
And I think one of the things that you guys are doing so well is trying to help the convergence of 3D workflows by, one, working with Datasmith, so building the bridge to our tools, so there's frictionless workflows. But I think the other thing you're doing is you're telling me about using AI to help bridge the gap between 2D workflows and 3D workflows. I think that's very innovative and necessary because our tools are only 3D. So don't approach them with 2D data because we're not going to be able to help you.
Yeah.
So we've got to work together to bring people into 3D.
Yeah, and thank you, because I definitely want to just reinforce what you said, Ken. We know, or everyday architects and engineers that are still in 2D and still face the challenges of going to 3D. So, and we also seen what we have built for them, the benefits for them, how easy it is, and we give them hope to make their business relevant and the way the company, the industry is going towards.
Yeah, I think we see just in the uptake in Twinmotion, what we've seen like 1.4 million downloads, and that a lot of people are pulling down Twinmotion, and these are architectural visualizers or architects themselves. So they're trying to figure it out. They see the power of visual communication, and they're trying to self-adopt these new workflows. And I don't want to underestimate the level of effort it requires to go from 2D to 3D. It's there. It's there. But there is, on the other side of that, is this very compelling world where, imagine Twinmotion as a time machine. You basically bring your 3D data into it. You bring it to life by adding materials and objects, furniture, and now you're in the future. You just step into that, and your customer can look around and see this future all around them. And then give you the feedback on, well, the ceiling maybe feels a little lower than I thought it would be, and can we push that wall out a little bit more? You can have these kinds of conversations that are really difficult to do with a blueprint.
Yeah, my sister-in-law, she's about to build a new house, and she's seen also the productivity of how easy it is to get a 3D. She's already asking me, can you please help me?
Yes.
I'm not sure about the materials. They all look good in paper, but I don't know. I'm not sure. So it's definitely relevant for everybody, these two worlds. So Ken, I heard you quote not too long ago that 77% of architects are planning to roll out real-time technology. Can you tell us a little bit more about Twinmotion and Unreal Engine, the technology behind this real-time capabilities?
Yes, so we did a survey with Forrester Research, and the results will be public very soon. We can share them. But one of the interesting statistics was that of the people that we queried in AEC, Architecture, Engineering, Construction, 77% saw the need to use real-time to visually communicate, like to be able to use it as a communication medium, as a place they can engage with stakeholders and clients and talk about the most complex projects very simple. So a lot of what we do with Realtime is, making the complex a simple conversation. And there's a lot of stakeholders that just don't have time. You have this you got 15 minutes of their time. You got to get it in front of them, sell them on what you're trying to do, and you need the impact, the tools that let you do that. And I think that's one of the reasons we're seeing this this move to Twinmotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we at the beginning I thought, when I saw Twinmotion, this is great for architects, but as you mentioned, this is also not just for architects, engineers and contractors. And actually we know of contractors using a product that are also using Twinmotion for the facing, and also for materials when they get to see, we don't have enough space to deliver here on this zone.
Logistics,
the logistics, they also find it very helpful. On the next topic, where do you see the future heading for 3D scan data, and what advances we should be looking out for?
So a lot going on in scanning the world around us. There's LiDAR capture, so where you need precision, and then there's photogrammetry, where you care about what it looks like.
Yeah.
And there's a blend of both of those. So capturing the world around you is happening at the greatest scales. We have one customer just showing me a project where they captured all of Venice with scanning.
Wow.
Yeah. And they captured inside palaces that public is not allowed to go to. And they're just revealing this week in Paris.
Nice.
In a big exhibition, all of Venice you can fly over. And so Realtime is allowing people to have brand new experience of things that are heritage. There's so many firms we're working with that are helping bridge the gap between these heritage projects. Notre Dame, right? That was unfortunately lost to fire, and they're rebuilding it. But we have a firm working with Unreal Engine that has built Notre Dame virtually. And they're in a tour, they're in Washington, D.C. right now, and you can learn all about Notre Dame, see it in all its glory, see it in its past. I mean, I talked about the time machine.
Yeah.
We can go into the past just as readily as we go into the future. And I think there is this need to bring these heritage projects to other people where people can't get to them, will never get to them. So, I mean, they're world treasures, and we need to figure out how to share them on that basis.
Agree, 100%. It's clear that Bricsys and Epic share the same drive for digital adoption. So in BricsCAD BIM, we also address the issue of complexity in traditional BIM solutions to allow our users to enjoy the experience of design while automating the repetitive and less enjoyable task, as classification, for example.
Yes.
With tools like Twinmotion and Unreal Engine, we can see how this complement our idea of giving tools that are simple but yet powerful when needed to be. And we see more and more adoption by designers, architects, and engineers. What about the less technical, adapted and adopted business in construction? Because we all know that that's actually also still quite the challenge.
Well, I think that, I talk to a lot of firms that are working on massive projects. So, ITER fusion reactor in France, they're trying to see the totality of the project. And they're working in Unreal because it can bring in all this data that you can't really get into any design tool. There's a limit to what you can design, and then you need to go beyond it on some of these projects.
Yes.
So we're seeing, certainly in construction, this need to bring in like the fission reactor, nuclear power reactor in the UK, Hinkley Point. They have 5,000 IFC files just for the steel girders. Yeah. what do you do with that?
Yeah, and that thought with or point cloud data. I mean, we've seen some like 100 gigabytes, and
billions of points. Yeah. So there's certainly, that's the high end, of course, but we still want to make sure that at the low end that people are still able to aggregate this data. That Twinmotion and Unreal, what we try to do is aggregate point cloud data and all these, the BricsCAD data, bring all this data together in one place so that you can, express your vision, flexibly.
Yeah, thank you. It's positive that you're seeing construction firms embracing the need for greater interactive experiences. Do you have any projects you can share with us today, and how far do you think we're from the beginning of mass adoption where it becomes a standard practice?
I think in construction, I think they're in some ways they're further ahead with using real-time as a visual communication medium, because they're always trying to figure out the logistics of the project, you were talking about. The need to figure out, well, can the truck come down that street? And so there's these very ad hoc explorations. I think we're trying to support that kind of investigation. I remember one of our clients, SNC Lavalin, it was a nuclear project. I don't know why we're doing so many of those, but
I think it's because of the big data.
Yes. But they were retrofitting, and they had to figure out, can we remove this thing from the reactor chamber and take it out that entrance without opening the entrance? And it was a complex shape that they had to interactively jiggle it and move it and say, yes, we can do it. And so they saved millions by doing that research in our product, because they could figure out, because we have collision detection, right? You could tell when something would not. So that's one example, but there's many where people are, it's this kind of mixed visualization where you're trying to understand a problem visually and work it out interactively.
And yet it's related to the real world.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, 100%. I was really interested in the collaboration on Sweden's Highspeed train rail project. Can you tell us how the application beneath Twinmotion and Unreal Engine and how users from the BIM world can learn from this experience?
So the high-speed rail project in Sweden is the largest infrastructure project in the last 100 years. Wow. It's like 100 kilometers of rail, and they have multiple problems. Like, one is to show stakeholders, like people that are along the path, what's it going to be like, right? So this is, again, the time machine principle. Let these public experience what this project will look like. And you can't just do it from a picture, right? You want to be able to take them in there, fly along it, give them a better understanding of how that might impact them.
Yeah.
So what they're doing on this project, it's a multi-firm effort. They are taking all the design data, hundreds of files, they're feeding it into an Unreal Engine project on a daily basis, and then they're sharing a visual of that, like at every morning design review. You can see how that 100 kilometers of rail, where it is in its design process. So it's this idea that you can, it's kind of a digital twin of the construction project, like watching it progress and being able at any point to say, is that really what we wanted to do? And then you get back to your capturing reality, being able to bring in the as constructed part. So now you can put in there, like, where did we pour the concrete, and and is that going to connect up properly? And so they can do all of that analysis in one place, which is kind of unique for them at that scale.
Yeah, something it's very simple, but I think that some of the confusion in the AEC industry when we talk about digital or twins, I don't know, maybe you can help us in this one, is that sometimes it's not obvious who owns this, who's delivering this digital twin.
That is the $1 million question.
Yeah.
I think it's up for grabs. I see that architectural firms have just as a right to build the digital twin as the engineering firm, as the construction firm.
Yeah.
Now, who's going to pursue that?
It's still.
Yeah.
There's no.
No, I mean, you could argue different sides of it, like who's the best at probably doing it.
Yeah.
But you know what? And it comes right down to it. There's so much opportunity with going 3D. A digital twin, you know, people probably heard the buzzword, but really every building of any scale being constructed now is totally wired with sensors.
Yeah.
Right? And that's new. I mean, like that is, you need to understand that data, to understand that context. And our best tool we have that is visual. So having all that data in 3D in a visual way that anyone can go like, oh, we've got a fire over there, or a sensor is showing heat, we maybe should check that out. And it's next to this thing that is a hazard. You know what I mean? Like that context, bringing it all together in one place. Yeah. I think that's where we add value.
Would you say contractors are often the ones taking the initiative on this digital twin, or?
I don't. I
it's
see.
It's just kind of like,
you know what,
the flow.
It's totally. I see everyone involved right now.
Yeah.
And I thought the architects were kind of late to it, but I think they're now realizing there's an opportunity to be driving it.
As a service,
And generally, exactly. And they're very technically astute in general, the firms that we talk to. They're fully capable of delivering on that and figuring it out. So
absolutely. I was there was something else on the topic of digital twins during your conversions presentation that you did not too long ago. You mentioned that digital twin is the first step into the metaverse journey. Would you mind sharing some more on that?
I think this is the idea that, again, look at the value of 3D. You know, you can start by showing customer and getting them to buy into your project and funding it. Now you've got 3D. Now you can take it and do a digital twin of that same asset. You've already got it. You've already done the work. So now use it and build a digital twin and get paid for that, right? Do a digital twin of the construction process and get paid for that. So, and then finally, we had a developer saying, hey, I want every customer of my new project to get a Twinmotion project file of their unit. So they want to base this future is every customer of new projects will have a virtual version along with their physical version. And we're seeing some really big projects in the Middle East that are saying, well, let's start with the virtual. Let's sell someone their apartment, their condo, based on the virtual version. And then, you know, we'll build it a year later.
Yep.
Meanwhile, they're engaged with their project, they're planning, they're furnishing, and all of those things because we've given them a tool to pursue that future.
Yeah, this is really nice.
It's happening.
Yeah. So it's clear that the metaverse offers a unique, powerful tool for the AEC stakeholders across workflows and construction phases. So as you know, attracting new talent to our sector is a challenge, and reskilling professionals currently working at each stage of construction is a key focus of companies. How are you? What is your experience with gaming and Fortnite informing you to develop better tools for collaboration in construction? Okay,
well, there's a couple things. One is that that Forrester research that we did, it asked people like, how interesting is real-time from a career standpoint? And 81% said that, you know, it matters to them. Like it either helps them retain talent, top talent, or it attracts talent. And I think firms that care about that need to give this new, I call it the Nintendo generation, I'm not the first, but they expect to work in 3D. You know what I mean? They've spent their whole lives playing these 3D games. And I think it's up for the work to be it should be capable of having fun at work. It shouldn't be.
I agree with you. I was in that place. I was in 2D. We moved to 3D, and then I remember at the time the company said, "Yeah, I think we're gonna go back to 2D." And that was my reaction. No. Then I ended up leaving because the point is to continue progressing, and not going back.
But that could have been a failure of the tool. I mean, there are BIM tools that are overly complex.
Yes.
And you can't efficiently deploy them at smaller scales.
Yeah.
And you guys have done a really good job with BricsCAD to be able to deploy at smaller scales and have it approachable.
Yeah, and that was the key issue. It was one, not everybody really knew, and of course you want to retain, but then they had the problem of losing that person, that only one person that knows the complex tool, and also it takes time. So it was a mix of everything, but you hit right on spot on this complexity tools. I know there are training online, but what if it's not enough? Do you guys provide some in-depth sessions?
We went free with all of our training. It's professionally produced, it's maintained and updated. We've also developed a whole global partnering ecosystem. So if someone wants training, there should be a local partner we can direct them to.
Okay.
So education is so important. With something as new, you're asking all these questions, digital twins of the metaverse, and how am I going to use it? And those are really interesting questions with not a lot of information out there in the world to figure them out.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do our part by having as much formal education, working with schools to change how people even do architecture, the various architectural universities and schools we work with. We have our $100 million mega grant, which funds innovation. So we did this a few years ago. People are free to send us a grant proposal, and in architecture we've funded over 3 million of these for roughly 90 projects have been funded just in my industry. So we're trying to do our part with helping people learn and figure out the future. Yeah,
that's great. I personally have seen a lot of improvement on the training materials you guys are offering, and it keeps growing and growing. So it's really a lot helpful.
Good. Good to hear.
Again, it's been a great conversation with you today. Thank you. Maybe just to wrap it up, let's see what we have discussed today. For example, helping the AEC to remove friction by working together to build simple, intuitive tools. We are preparing architects, engineers, contractors to get the best out of our technologies for the future, because it's actually here. A key to this would be to democratize of the technologies through open platforms for all the stakeholders in the AEC to embrace and enjoy. Thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for giving me this opportunity. I'm looking forward to partnering with you guys and helping all those people out there join us in the future.
Yes, let's do that. Thank you.